Come back to the inheritance I already signed. My child, you have been fighting for a wage when I already named you an heir. You have been trying to earn what was already deeded to you in Christ. You keep checking the scoreboard, measuring your worth by the latest battle. But my word says in Romans 8:17, if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ. You are not a hired hand trying to keep your place. You are a child in the will. You are an heir, not a hire. And right now, as these words reach you, I want that settled fact to become the ground you fight from instead of the prize you fight for. Step in closer. Nothing has to be settled. Nothing has to be earned. Before you are welcome to lay this down and breathe. I am not standing back, arms folded, until you pull yourself together and prove you are worth approaching. Come the way you actually are, worn thin, half-clenched, unsure you have anything left for the next round. And your place in the house will not so much as flinch at the state you are in. It was never grading you. It has only ever been holding your name. There's something I want you to understand about how closely I've been watching, because this is not a message addressed to a crowd. It is addressed to you, inside the particular life you woke up to. Some of you treat every setback as a ruling on whether you belong here at all. One thing goes wrong, the floor tilts, and a voice you never invited starts reading the result back as a sentence. This is who you are. This is what you are worth. This is how it always ends for someone like you. A father works a second shift, does the right thing over and over, and still lies awake feeling he fell short of a standard no one will ever say out loud. A mother reads the message from the school twice, skating past the actual words, hunting for the buried line that says she failed her child. Not one of those moments was too small to register with me. Not one of them slipped by while my attention was elsewhere. There is a tally running behind your eyes. A scoreboard you check before you have even opened them for the day, before your feet hit the floor, before the day has done anything at all to deserve the dread you greet it with. The friend who used to ask how the fight was going does not ask anymore. And the silence where that question used to live has its own ache. Your prayer has quietly shrunk over the months, from sentences to a few words, from a few words to a single held breath you push toward the ceiling some nights, too tired to shape it into language. I have not missed a single one of those breaths, and here is the first thing I need you to hear before anything else. None of it changes a word of what is written. The scoreboard you keep checking is not the document that decides who you are. Some of you do the arithmetic alone, late, after the house has gone quiet. The careful figuring of what is left, what is owed, how thin the margin is worn. The same numbers run again and again as if one more pass might make them land softer. And some of you stopped telling anyone how heavy it had grown, partly out of pride, partly out of a dread that letting the truth out would only confirm the worst thing you suspect about yourself. You have been guarding your struggle the way a person guards something fragile, because somewhere you decided that the size of your fight is proof of your failure. It is not. The weight you carry is not the measure of your worth. And the thing you have been so afraid would be exposed about you was never the truth about you in the first place. The truth about you is written somewhere your secrets cannot touch, in a will, in my own hand. You have been told, in 100 quiet ways that added up over a long time, that you are a hired hand and not an heir, that you have to clock the hours, that you have to hit the number, that love and belonging and any good thing coming your way are wages, and wages can be docked, and wages stop the moment you stop performing. and one bad month puts you right back at nothing. Nobody handed you that belief in a single sentence. It came in slowly, from 100 small experiences, from approval that arrived only after achievement, from rooms where you learned that you were welcome as long as you were useful. And so you have come to fight like a person defending a paycheck they are terrified of losing, gripping every small gain with white knuckles, because somewhere underneath, you believe it can all be clawed back if you slip even once. Close your eyes for one slow breath here, just one, before you read another line. And while they are closed, notice how braced your whole body is, the set of your shoulders, the readiness in your jaw, the way some part of you is always half expecting the next loss. That bracing is not weakness. It is the posture of someone who thinks everything they have is on loan and could be repossessed. I want to speak directly to that posture. I want to loosen it from the inside, not by telling you to try harder to relax, but by showing you what was actually written about you long before you learned to brace. Think about how exhausting it is to live as a worker who is never quite sure of their place. Such a person can never fully rest, because rest itself feels like a risk. They read every silence as disapproval and every setback as a warning. They celebrate a good day with one eye already on tomorrow, waiting for it to be taken back, because in the economy of wages, nothing is ever truly safe. That is the weight you have been carrying into your battles. Not just the battle itself, but the dread that losing the battle might lose you the whole house. You have been fighting two fights at once, the one in front of you, and the deeper one over whether you have any right to be standing here at all. I want to end the second one for you, so that you only have to face the first. And here is the thing you have not let yourself believe. The will was signed before the fight ever began. Think of the worker who keeps a running list in the back of their mind. The late arrival, the email they answered too slowly, the day they were short with someone they love, a small private ledger of every reason they might be sent away. Some of you have been keeping that list about me for years. You add to it after every bad day. You read it back to yourself in the dark, certain it adds up to a case against you. But I'm not building that case. I never opened the file. A wage keeps a person watching the clock and counting their mistakes. An inheritance lets a person stop counting, because the thing was never theirs to lose. But listen carefully, because this is where the lie starts to come apart. A wage can be docked. What is kept for you cannot. The picture of me you have been holding was built up in you slowly over years by people who handed down a God who keeps a ledger, a God who pays out when you perform and withholds when you fall short, a God whose warmth rises and dips with your latest result, pleased on your good weeks, cool and distant on your bad ones, essentially a boss with a clipboard, tracking whether you have earned your keep this quarter. You came to read me as a manager, hunched over a timesheet, tallying your hours, deciding whether you have done enough to hold your spot. Some of the ones who painted me that way meant well. Some of them did not. Either way, the portrait was a forgery, because I have not been standing over a timesheet at all. I have been standing over a will with your name already written into it, in ink that does not wash out. The real me is not crossing my arms and waiting to see whether you justify your keep this year. The real me is not running the numbers on your worth. The real me has already settled the portion over to you, set it aside where it cannot be lost, and what I signed was not in pencil. It cannot be erased by a bad season. It will not be revised because you stumbled. The settled gift was finished before you ever heard about it, and nothing you do today moves a letter of it Hear this carefully because it is the line your fear cannot survive. A wage is earned, and it is anxious, and it is measured by the hour. An inheritance is received, and it is secured, and it is given to a child. Sit with the size of that difference for a moment, because everything turns on it. A wage has to be renewed constantly. An inheritance is given once. A wage can be withheld the moment your output drops. What is kept for you does not depend on your output at all. A wage keeps you watching the clock. An inheritance lets you come home. You have been fighting your whole life for a wage when you were born into an inheritance. You have been auditioning for a place at a table that already has your name carved into the chair, but an heir does not audition for the family. So when I tell you that you will come through, that you will stand and not fall, that the thing pressing on you will not have the final word, I am not promising you a wage you have to keep re-earning. The win you keep trying to seize is not the prize at the far end of the war, the thing you finally grab if you fight well enough and long enough. It is the standing you already hold. It is the settled portion you are carrying into every single skirmish, whether you remember it or not. You do not fight in order to win. You do not fight to become an heir. You fight from the ground of being one. A hired hand fights to keep a place. An heir fights from a place already given. One is the posture of a worker who could be let go. The other is the posture of a child who already owns the field the battle is happening on. And I want to be careful with you here, because the word victory has been sold to you cheaply, and I will not do that to you. I am not telling you that because you are an heir. Every circumstance will bend the way you want it to by a date you can mark. I am not promising that the money lands this season, that the door opens on the timeline you set, that the person walks back through it, that the result you are bracing for is reversed on cue. The ones who promise you those things on a schedule are selling you a wage and calling it a blessing. The victory I am putting under your feet is deeper and steadier than any single outcome, and it cannot be undone by a circumstance that does not move. It is this: that you belong to me, that your name is in the will, that your standing as a child does not rise and fall with your wins and losses. From that ground, you can face an outcome that disappoints you and still not be defeated, because the thing that actually held you was never the outcome. It was always the portion that was kept. So strip the word victory of its cheap meaning and let it carry its true one. Victory is not arranging the world to finally validate you. Victory is walking into the unresolved, unbeautiful middle of your situation as a secure child rather than an anxious employee, and discovering that the security holds even when the situation does not. That is a win nothing on the surface can take from you, because it was never stored on the surface to begin with. And that is exactly what the enemy of your peace cannot stand. So listen, because here is where the hired hand lie breaks. He comes at the deed, not the estate, because the estate itself is out of his reach. It is not kept in a place his hands can go. It is not stored on the surface of your circumstances where a bad day can rob it. So he goes after the one thing he can touch, which is your confidence that it is yours. He whispers that the will must have been a misunderstanding, that a child like you, with your record, with your history, with the things you have done and the things done to you, could not really have been named in it. That the next loss, the one that is surely coming, will finally expose you as an outsider who was never family at all. And here is what makes that voice so cruel. The loss he points at is often real. The grief is real. The setback actually happened, and I am not going to pretend otherwise or ask you to call a wound something prettier than it was. But notice the trick. Do not confuse a hard battle with a lost inheritance. He takes a real loss and uses it to make a false claim about your standing as a child. The loss happened. Your standing did not move. Something real was taken from you, and it was painful, and I was there in it. And it was never the inheritance, because what is kept for you was never kept anywhere a loss could reach. What you grieved was real. What he told you it proved was a lie. And hear this plainly. Your worst day did not demote you from heir to hired hand. So let me read you something that was written down for you a very long time ago. Not a slogan, not a saying for people who already have their lives in order and just need a little extra inspiration. This is a line set down by a man writing a letter to a small, frightened group of believers in a city called Rome. People who were losing things, people under pressure, people who had every reason to feel like outsiders in their own lives and strangers in their own faith. They were not strong by any visible measure. They were not winning. They were not the ones the world would have pointed to as proof that following me pays off. He was not writing to congratulate champions. He was writing to the tired ones, the afraid ones, the ones who were not sure they belonged. He was writing, in other words, to someone exactly like you. Feel the gentleness in that, because this was never meant to be a verse argued over in a lecture hall. I did not have it written down so that experts could pick apart its grammar. It was set there for the worn-out person reading right now, the one who has been laboring like a servant and aching like an orphan, the one who needs to be told, in the plainest words, what is actually true about who you are. This is what I said. Romans chapter 8, verse 17. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ. Go through it slowly, one clause at a time, because each piece is carrying weight. Notice the order before anything else. Children first, then heirs. The inheritance is not the reward for good behavior. It is the simple, automatic consequence of one fact, that you are a child. The word that decides everything here is not earned, and it is not deserved, and it is not achieved. The word is heirs. An heir does not perform to keep their name in the will. An heir does not get demoted to hired hand after a bad year. An heir receives fully and securely because of whose child they are. And you are mine. None of those believers in Rome had qualified by their record either. They were frightened and ordinary and pressed on every side, and I called them heirs anyway, not because they had earned it, but because my son stood in your place and made you family at his own cost. Then hear the second half, because it goes even further than you would dare to ask. Joint heirs with Christ, not a distant relative who gets a small remembrance from the estate, not a servant allowed to live near the house, the same standing as the son himself, the full portion, a child in the will, with everything that belongs to the son named as belonging to you as well. That is not a wage anyone could pay you. That is not a prize anyone could earn. It can only be received the way an inheritance is received, by belonging, not by performing. And joint heir with Christ means the portion is not fragile. It does not get smaller on the days you forget it. And let me show you why your standing is so unshakable, because it costs something to settle it. The son took the place of the hired hand, so you could take the place of a child. He was treated as the outsider, so you could be brought into the house. He was stripped, so you could receive the robe. He was cast out, so your name could be written in. He signed the inheritance with his own life, and what he signed with blood cannot be revoked by your worst day. That is why no accusation can revise it. The thing that proves you belong is not your performance on your best day. It is what he already finished on your behalf, and finished things cannot be unfinished by your worst one. Read that sentence again, slowly, because the whole posture of your life can change inside it. He signed the inheritance with his own life, not with a promise that could be broken, not with a contract that renews each year and could lapse if you fall behind, with his life. And what is signed in that ink does not get reopened for review when you have a bad month. A wage can be docked the week your numbers fall. The portion he secured cannot be touched by your weakest season, because the one who secured it is not weak. And he did not leave the document in your trembling hands. He keeps it himself. Your worst day did not demote you. It could not. The will was already settled in a court. Your failure has no standing to appeal. There is a clause in that same passage that goes on to say, the heirs share in his suffering as well as his glory. And I want you to hear that not as a threat, but as a tenderness. It means that on the days the fight is hard, you are not being demoted. You're not slipping out of the family because the season is painful. The hard road is the family road. The son walked it first, and walking it does not cost you your place. So when you are in the thick of something that hurts, do not let the difficulty be read to you as evidence that you were never really an heir. The difficulty is the very path the children walk, and the portion waits unharmed at the end of it. Notice the order of it again, because the order is everything. Child first, then heir, then battle. The belonging comes before the inheritance, and the inheritance comes before any battle you will ever fight. You did not become a child by winning. You did not earn the will by your conduct in the war. The belonging was settled first, and out of that belonging, the inheritance was given. And only after both of those were secured do you ever step onto a battlefield. So you are not fighting for belonging. You are fighting from belonging. You do not walk into the hard thing as a hired hand, trying to earn the right to stay employed. You walk in as a son, as a daughter, with a sealed portion behind you that the outcome of the day cannot touch. And what a portion it is. It is imperishable. It does not rust in a slow year. It does not decay while you wait. It does not lose value because the season has been long and dry. It is undefiled. Your worst choice does not stain it. Your failure does not contaminate it. The thing you are most ashamed of does not reach into it and ruin it. It does not fade. It will not grow dim with time. It will not weaken as you age. It will not quietly diminish while your back is turned. And it is kept. Not kept in your trembling hands, where a single bad grip could spill it, where loss could find it, where the thief could break in. It is kept somewhere your enemy cannot cut and your failure cannot reach, held for you by the one who signed it over, guarded by a strength that is not your strength. Turn back now to the thing I set in front of you when this began. You have been straining to earn a victory, fighting for a prize as if the outcome of the fight were the thing that decided whether you belong. And this is the reason your heart keeps reading it that way. You have mistaken what is kept for you for a wage you might lose. You have been holding a settled gift in your hand and acting like a person clutching a paycheck. The will was signed before the fight began. And to make certain you would never have to wonder whether it was really yours, you were sealed, marked with my own spirit as the guarantee of the inheritance. The way a document is stamped and witnessed so that no one can ever dispute whose name is on it. The seal is not your feeling. The seal is not your performance. The seal is my own spirit, set on you, vouching for what is already yours. So on the day you wake with no faith you can feel, when the assurance has drained out of you and the hard thing in front of you looks like a verdict you are dreading, the seal is still there. It does not lift when your confidence dips. It was never resting on your confidence. It was placed by me, and it stays because I stay. So the fight was never about whether you are mine. That question was closed a long time ago, and it was not closed by you. The fight is not to become an heir. The fight is simply to walk out, day by day, in the strength of what you already hold. That changes what courage even means. Courage is no longer gritting your teeth to win something that might still go either way. Courage is remembering, in the middle of the pressure, that the verdict is already in, the will is already signed, the portion is already yours. And then standing in that truth even when the day is screaming the opposite. Let me leave you with one small practice for the days ahead. When the next setback lands and the old voice rises to tell you this proves you do not really belong. You do not need to argue back. You do not need to win the debate, outshout it, or assemble your evidence. You can simply open one hand in your lap, palm turned up, the way a person holds their hand to receive a gift, rather than to grab or to guard. And quietly, low enough that only I can hear, you can answer the lie with one true sentence. I am an heir, not a hire. Do not expect it to change how you feel the first time you say it. It may do nothing, the 10th time either. The bracing has lived in you for a long while, and a posture that old does not dissolve in a single afternoon. But after you have answered the accusation enough times with what is settled instead of with your effort, after the practice has worn a small groove in you, the grip across your chest will begin, almost without your noticing the moment it happens, to ease. Because a part of you that has been braced for years will at last start to trust that your place was never up for review, that it was never a wage in the first place, that it cannot be docked, cannot be clawed back, cannot be lost in a bad quarter, that you do not have to keep fighting to hold on to the very thing that was given to hold on to you. I know how strange that will feel at first, to stop defending something that does not need defending. For a while you may even miss the fight, because the fight is familiar, and the fight gave you something to do with your fear. But slowly you will discover that you can put the weapon down without losing the ground beneath you, because the ground was never something you were holding by force. It was something you were standing on by birth, and ground like that does not shift when you finally let yourself rest on it. There's a quieter version of this you can practice when no setback is in front of you at all, on an ordinary afternoon, when the old anxiety simply rises for no reason you can name. Sit still for the length of one breath and notice the impulse to start earning again. The urge to make a list, to fix something, to prove the day was not wasted. You do not have to obey it. You can let the urge pass through you the way weather passes over a house that is not going anywhere. The house does not chase the weather. It does not negotiate with the wind. It stands because of what it is built on. You are allowed to be that still, not because nothing is wrong, but because the one thing that could never go wrong was already settled before you woke up. And here is one more small thing, if you want it, for the moments right before you walk into something hard, the meeting, the conversation, the appointment you have been dreading, the room where you are afraid you will be measured and found wanting. Before you step through the door, take a single moment to remember the order I showed you. You might even say it under your breath as you reach for the handle. Child first, then heir, then battle. You are not going in to earn your standing. You are going in already holding it. Let those words go in front of you like someone walking ahead of you into the room. You are not entering as a hired hand auditioning to keep your place, You are entering as someone whose place was settled long before this day arrived, and nothing that happens in that room can reach the will. You will not always remember to do this. You will forget, and the old posture will snap back, and you will catch yourself fighting for a wage again before you even realize it. That is all right. The inheritance does not get smaller on the days you forget it. It is not a discipline you have to keep perfectly in order to deserve it. It is a fact you are slowly learning to lean on, and even your forgetting cannot unsign the will. And on the days when no words come at all, breathe one long breath out, emptier and slower than you would normally let yourself, and let that exhale stand in for the prayer. You do not have to pray it well. You do not have to pray it at all. What is kept for you leans on the quality of your praying about as much as it leans on the quality of your fighting, which is to say, not in the least. It rests entirely on whose child you are, and that has not changed, and it is not about to. The will is signed. Your worst day did not revoke it. Your failure did not disqualify you. Your loss did not reach the portion. Your fear did not erase your name. You are not a hired hand waiting to be dismissed. You are a child in the house. You are an heir, and the portion is kept. Hold that picture for a moment before you move on. Not a paycheck you could lose by the end of the week. Not a wage you have to keep re-earning, anxious and watching the clock. A name already in the will, sealed, witnessed, imperishable, undefiled, kept where no thief and no bad season and no failure of yours can ever break in and carry it off. You are not a servant hoping to be kept on. You are a child, and the portion is already yours. Amen. If something here found the part of you that has been laboring like a hired hand afraid of being let go, drop the word heir below. Pinned at the top of the comments are 7 short letters, one for each of the next 7 days, for the moments you feel like a servant instead of a child. Pass this to someone who has been fighting for a wage I never asked them to earn. You were never a servant in this house. You have always been the child.